The Plaza de Toros at Tijuana lies quietly in the afternoon sun. 125 miles to the north is metropolitan Los Angeles. To the south is Ensenada, and 900 miles of virtually empty wilderness to conquer before arriving at La Paz. Here at Tijuana, where Sunday afternoon crowds come to witness the moment of truth, modern-day conquistadores prepare their conquest against the rugged obstacles of the lower California peninsula. Their weapons for survival are spare gas, spare tires, extra parts, canned food, and aerial maps. Their metal steeds are in 4 classes: stock cars, dune buggies, 4-wheel drive vehicles, and motorcycles. It is a race, but the course resembles a cowpath designed by the devil himself. One man said, the roads in general are still as they were in the year 1 after the creation of the world. That was written 200 years ago by a Jesuit missionary. Since then, nothing has changed very much on the road to La Paz.
The world is one paved road, they thought, that there's a road that they forgot. It's been there since the beginning of time. To ride this road, it will take some time. Now you started a border town, and you're on your way down to a place where you've never been, on a path where only the devil's been. Dirt and dust upon your face, broken bones every place, thirst and hunger in your way, and this is all you can really say. Man didn't build it, man didn't care, nobody thought you would ever reach there.
The sun goes down, and at midnight the ordeal begins. Vehicles in class rotation start at 2-minute intervals. 2-wheel drive passenger cars and trucks, standard 4-wheel drive units and buggies, modified and non-production vehicles of all types, and motorcycles. Acton Miller competed in the famous Mexican road races 15 years ago. Now, with co-pilot Ray Brock, publisher of Hot Rod magazine, he faces a course so difficult that contestants count themselves lucky to just finish. Mary McGee and 2 other women take up the challenge of the road to La Paz. Vic Wilson and Ted Mangels know the Baja Peninsula as well as anyone can know it. George Hurst's much-publicized Baja boot was designed and built for this race. The first 64 miles are deceptively easy. A modern toll road from Tijuana to Ensenada speeds the racers on their way to a finish line where they will wait for dawn and a restart. The easy part is over. From here on, it will be a high-speed contest against fatigue, mechanical breakdowns, and a road that isn't really there at all. At dawn, the people of Ensenada turn out for the restart with expressions of goodwill, but only a slight understanding of what is ahead. For very few Mexicans know that part of their own country which lies forgotten by time to the south. But Tomas Villa Beltran, police commandante of Ensenada, is one who knows the country. A total of 68 vehicles take the green flag, but how many finish? Well, that's another story. Everyone who starts knows that in time, there is a day, a night, and part of another day ahead without any stops except to take on fuel. A guide for a race car may have its humorous aspects, but in this event, it is a wise precaution. For if you get lost, there are no signposts. If you break down, you fix it yourself. And yet, with all the hardships, there are men who will give anything to go racing. Scott Foss and Dave Evans start for La Paz, flat broke. The theory being there's no place to spend it even if you've got it. And if you get to La Paz, you can sell the car. Vic Wilson and Ted Mangels are as well prepared for the race as any team can be, but the unpredictable road to La Paz can change the odds for anyone at any time. Orrin Nordine and Chuck Owen leave nothing to chance. They have installed a safety roll bar system just in case. George Haddock and Jimmy Smith have tough competition. There are 4 other identical buggies entered. Bruce Myers and Relo Anderson drive one of them. Surely you've heard of Snoopy and the Red Baron. They're on their way in a Sopwith Camel Porsche. 14 years ago, Bill Strop prepared cars and rode as co-pilot to Johnny Mance in the last Mexican road race. Now he is co-pilot to Ray Harvick in the first Mexican 1000. The minutes tick away as car after car leaves the line and starts the long grind to La Paz. And soon, they are all gone. Ensenada is back to normal. "72 miles south of Ensenada, all vestiges of civilization stop abruptly. The pavement ends, and while the road continues smooth for a distance, the racers begin to eat the dust of Baja California. And where do all these men come from? The fact that the race is organized in the United States and run in Mexico gives the basic international flavor, but the entries themselves provide the color of many lands. They come from France, Sweden, England, and the United States, Mexico, and the Argentine. They are veterans of international events like the East African Safari, the Peruvian Grand Prix, the International 6-Day Bike Trials, the Mille Miglia, and the Pan American Road Race. And their cars and motorcycles are products of the United States, England, France, Sweden, Spain, Germany, and Japan. Together, they face the hardships of nature. For where the road to La Paz leads, there are no service stations, hotels, or telephones. Nothing but Baja California, still untouched by man. Pick your road wherever you find it, for that is where the road is. And what is smooth today is rough tomorrow, and impossible the day after. It's a condition which promotes the leisurely way of life. At least one little boy thinks the Americanos are crazy. If not, then why drive from Tijuana to La Paz with a little white dog fastened to the top of the car? And speaking of getting to La Paz, it will not happen for many. The road has begun to take its toll. Even here, as the going gets rougher, it can still be called a road, but the Baja buff knows that the worst is still to come. Almost as if the country resented the speed of the invaders, the slow pace is presented in almost pastoral simplicity. Until after a few hours, the racers begin to wonder what all the rush is about. It is the challenge of a contest largely based on physical endurance and driving skill in an age when so many of the frontiers are those of the mind. Approaching Santa Ynez, the country takes on a surrealistic look. It is like being on another planet, and the racer must remind himself that he is still only 425 miles south of Los Angeles. Gigantic cactus shaped like green carrots cover the landscape. They are cereal or boojum trees, so rare that they grow in no other place on Earth except for a few square miles in Mexico. Rancho Santa Ynez is a checkpoint and fuel stop on the course. The first vehicle in is a motorcycle ridden by Larry Berquist, who is so far ahead of the field that the officials can't believe it. Cans of gas spotted well ahead of time wait for the contestants who will follow. And then another motorcycle ridden by Malcolm Smith. In any pit stop on a race this long, it is essential to make haste, slowly. The driver must give his muscles a chance to relax. The vehicle must be serviced and checked. The time card must be signed by a course official, and then back to the road. But even with all the care, it is frequently the insignificant things that can bring disaster to a man in this hostile country. Little things like a dropped canteen. At this point, the race looks like it will be dominated by the motorcycles, for they are far in advance of the cars. Then the cars do begin to come in. George Haddock and Jimmy Smith are followed by Vic Wilson and Ted Mangels. Crews and officials work to get them in and out in a hurry. With nightfall, the hardships just past are nothing compared to those still to come. At El Arco, the problem is just to find the checkpoint. Service and repairs are accomplished with the aid of flashlights and Coleman lanterns. The leading bike, now ridden by J.N. Roberts, is hopelessly lost in a thick ground fog somewhere to the south, as the leading car, driven by George Haddock, pulls into El Arco. They have been on the road for 12 hours and 39 minutes, with Vic Wilson breathing down their neck. Sunup at the finish line in La Paz. Alert officials have waited all night. Everything is ready. Ed Perlman, president of NORRA, paces up and down, mentally urging the drivers toward the finish line. But there is only an empty road and an empty sky, except for one lonely buzzard looking for his breakfast. The racers are still spread out over the south end of Baja California. And with 300 miles to go, Ack Miller reflects on the night just passed.
At this point, Brock and I have been driving for 24 hours with no rest. The night was the worst. When cactus by the side of the road starts to look like people, you know you're really tired. Even in daylight, things aren't much better because it seems as though nature has played a big joke on it. When the world was created, all the reject rocks must have been dumped right here on the south end of this course. Well, we made it into La Purísima, jumping from one rock to the next. So did Bill Stropp and Ray Harvick. There must have been 100 people turned out, which was all there was. Stropp was having a little trouble getting the hood closed, but they're really not supposed to fit anymore after the car has been upside down. We serviced our car while Stropp got ready to take off. Man, looks like he'll be ready for a bath when he gets to La Paz. Well, we get underway again. It's just a short distance now until we hit the start of the pavement, which pretty well goes into the finish. We've been sliding over rocks so long that we almost had to learn to drive all over again. This is where we made up some time, but this part of the road is probably as bad as any other part, because when you're tired and driving at high speed, anything can happen.
At the finish line, the crowd grows larger by the hour. Where are the racers? There's nothing anyone can do but wait. Suddenly, the waiting is over. It's Mick Wilson and Ted Mangels, and they've been on the road 27 hours and 38 minutes, and that is a new record by almost 3.5 hours. J.N. Roberts on the winning bike is so tired he has to be urged over the finish line. Right behind him is John Barnes. Roberts' only comment is,
Unreal.
now they begin to come in more frequently. Tiny Thompson and Les Choate could have won had they not stopped to give help to another competitor in trouble. George Haddock and Jimmy Smith are happy to just finish. They had electrical problems during the night and kept the car running with, of all things, flashlight batteries. Chuck Owen and Orrin Nordine are first in their class. They didn't need those roll bars, but you never know. Al Rogers on another bike. That miner's lamp on his helmet helped him through the long night. Dave Eakins barely makes it to the finish line. He couldn't have made another mile. Rodney Hall and Larry Miner crossed the finish line with a new record for four-wheel drive vehicles. John Thawley and Francisco Lons Duray finish, but the long road to La Paz has taken its toll of them. They are both journalists. Maybe later on they will find words to describe their trip. For Ack Miller and Ray Brock, the long hours are over. They cross that wide spot on the road just outside La Paz, and the crowd welcomes two more to that growing list of successful Baja conquistadores. Tired, dirty, and happy, they finish, but others are still on the road to La Paz as the sun goes down. The contrast of blue water to the parched desert is hard to get used to, but after a night's sleep, the racers even begin to talk about next year. Cars with dust of 1,000 miles washed away are displayed in downtown La Paz to people who have had a hard time understanding why anyone would drive the length of Baja California just for the fun of it. Some of them are bent and battered, but they are all ready for the long trip home. Even Snoopy atop his South with Camel Porsche made it, not as a winner, but with a spirit of tenacity which kept many of them going long after they knew they could not win. It is time now to talk and relive some of the adventures of the road, to quench the thirst and sample the food of another country, to sit under palm trees that grow down to the sea. The victory banquet is held at the Los Cocos Hotel in La Paz. For Ed Perlman, a successful first race. For Vic Wilson, a winning achievement. And for all those others who won their class or just finished, something to remember all of their lives. And what about Ack Miller? Well, they gave him the bird. He did set a new record for passenger cars from Ensenada to La Paz. Someday, when a broad, modern highway runs the length of Baja California, these men, these conquistadores, will be remembered with the same respect as those hardy pioneers who crossed the American plains more than 100 years ago.